Hi everyone, hope you're all well. Welcome to the latest Citizen vlog, and it's a continuation of our history of Manchester City. We're up to 1965-66. Yeah, as you can tell now that we're getting to the stage where, as I said, I covered 64-65 in the last one, that I got personal memories as well of this time, as this is when I started going to Main Road with my dad in the mid-60s. Obviously, I'm going to do a season at a time now. We started off with 10-year increments, then we went down to 5-year increments. There's more information out there, more images, more stuff to show you, more images and personal memories to share with you. We're now going season by season, so obviously you can pick and choose then, can't you? If you look back, there's a few of these coming up. You can pick a certain season and relive that season as well. So we're going to have a look at today at 1965-66 in the history of Manchester City. Please, if you're new to the Citizen channel, I do Citizen past and present, so I do stuff on City now, and obviously these little vlogs on City in the past as well. Our wonderful, magnificent history. Don't let anyone tell you we haven't got a history. We've got possibly one of the best and finest histories in world football, not just English football. So that's my opinion, and I think many would agree with me. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscription button, push the bell notification so you know these little vlogs are coming out. That'll be absolutely fantastic. Right, 1965-66. Yeah, this, as far as I know, I could have gone to Main Road in 64-65, but as far as I do remember, my dad died when I was quite young, so I can't really look back, and I can't really look at old programmes to know when I've gone to a game, because obviously it's very difficult. I've had to rebuy a lot of older programmes because I just didn't buy programmes when I was first going to the football matches for one reason or the other. Or I used to cut them up and stick pictures on my wall, and or just throw them away. So that was so as near as I can tell, it was 65-66. The World Cup season was when I was really interested in football. Obviously, I had my World Cup Willie in 1966. Might have to talk about that in the 66-67 season. Have a quick brief look at England's victory in the World Cup, obviously. But this was the preceding season, 1965-66. City were in the second division, and I would say it would have been going in the Platt Lane. We always got in there when the turnstiles opened. My dad used to go in a senior turnstile. I used to go in a little junior one a bit further down. We used to meet inside in the Platt Lane, and we always used to sit in the same spot in the Platt Lane, stand on the benches, and they were all marked out with numbers on the benches. But whether anyone took any real notice of that, if someone was quite a larger gentleman or lady, it was obviously would have used up more space. But not many ladies in those days. I just one of my abiding memories of the Platt Lane stand was obviously the cigars, but obviously more importantly, pipe tobacco. I loved the smell of pipe tobacco in the old Platt Lane. That was fantastic. Yeah, we used to sit about 11 rows. We used to go in the tunnel right in the corner, and the very first block on the end, we used to go about 11 or 12 rows up. We always try and get the same seats in there when I was going with my dad. Anyway, 65-66. I remember some night games as well, so I wasn't, I know school nights, I probably wouldn't have been allowed to go to certain games, but I do remember quite a lot of night games with my dad as well, as when I started going on my own a few years later. Yeah, as we stated, I look back on 64-65, we were in need of something special, weren't we? City was struggling. I mean, why did I pick City at that stage? I mean, we weren't very good, to be honest with you. United had just won the league title the season before, so they were the sort of club that, you know, it was the mid-60s, it was that time. Again, City had missed the boat a little bit, hadn't we? You know, it was a time when things were sort of moving and modern, and United had been the glamour club then, and City had been the glamour club previously. And if you've watched these history vlogs, obviously, and certainly before the war, City were always the bigger club, always the sort of glamour club in Manchester. But no, we'd missed out with this new age, typical City, as we always say. So yeah, we needed something special, didn't we? Crowds had dropped. I mean, I think it was our lowest for a long time. The average crowds in 1964-65 were just 14,753, which was pretty bad, wasn't it? We got the manager Poyser had resigned in the May, and thoughts had turned obviously to the future. And as I mentioned last time, people like Peter Doherty and an ex-player, and a well-renowned manager then, well thought of manager then, called Bill Shankly, was even mentioned at coming to Main Road. So a few eyebrows were raised when a certain Joe Mercer was appointed the new City manager. He'd been let go by Aston Villa after an illness. He'd suffered a stroke in 1964, and he sort of semi-retired and went back to his wife's business to work there in retail. But it was a bit of a shock when he was still unwell. So when we saw City brought him out of retirement. As I said, Villa had got rid of him while he was poorly. I don't know the reasons behind that, etc. But he'd played some good football with Villa. They'd won the League Cup. They'd got to semi-finals. I think they'd won the second division title. So they played attractive football if you watch these things. So obviously that's what appealed to the City board. But obviously with his illness, Joe Mercer made no bones about it. He needed a strong number two, didn't he? And he soon picked up a certain gentleman called Mercer-Allison. And I believe Mercer-Allison was a big admirer of Manchester City from a boy, the Revy plan and all this sort of thing. I think he was even though obviously he was from down south, he wasn't a local lad by any means. He was a big admirer and apparent fan of Manchester City, so that was a great thing for him to come as well. On the player front, Kevin, who'd been our top scorer many, for a season or two, he's certainly been up there. The previous season he was the top scorer. He left to join Crystal Palace, and we signed another gentleman that obviously these now the mid-60s start becoming familiar names, don't we? We signed a certain Mike Summerby from Swindon Town the season before. He'd obviously played against us for Swindon and I think he'd scored a goal against us even. Obviously the start of the season it didn't go great. We had a few. There's always the pre-season friendlies. We used to play Scottish teams, etc. Not many European trips in those days, but there was one or two, and things didn't go well pre-season. But Joe Mercer obviously was sort of upbeat, and he was never going to offer any excuses, Joe. And he on the 30th of August, he actually wrote in the match programme, we won at Molineux 4-2. And if you look at one of his match programme notes, he was never going to use excuses. And he wrote in this match programme, which was for the game against Norwich City on Wednesday the 8th of September. Once again, injuries to players appear to be dogging our footsteps, but make no mistake about it, I shall not attempt to pass this off as an excuse if results should go against us. No matter how irksome and frustrating they may be, injuries are part and parcel of the game and are something we must learn to live and overcome. A hot pace is being set in the second division by Bolton Wanderers, and it will be even hotter by the time the season is a few more weeks advanced. One must never lose sight of the fact, however, that there is a long way to go, and it is a stayer who invariably wins over a long distance, no matter what kind of sport we talk about. A final word about the attendance at our first two home games. I said they've been low, hadn't they? It was a heartening sight to see nearly 26,000 for the game against Wolves, although the figure dropped for the next match, probably because of being holiday time and lots of people went away for the weekend. Nevertheless, we can sense a resurgence of the new spirits amongst our supporters, and we hope they will return to us in ever-increasing numbers starting tonight for our game against Norwich City, to whom we extend a warm welcome. The first 15 league games, the only defeat we had was a 4-3 away defeat to Cardiff City on the 18th of September. So that was just one defeat. All right, we'd drawn a few games, but that was obviously with the 2 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. That didn't really matter. At last, City fans had a bit of swagger back. We had a bit of joy back. John Mercer was mentioning there earlier doors that obviously the City fans were sort of a bit more up for it. We didn't sit on our laurels as we never did. We brought in a certain gentleman called Stan Horn, who was the first black player to play for Manchester City, and in fact he was the first black player to play for both Aston Villa and Fulham as well, so he sort of did the rounds. He actually retired quite young with ill health, unfortunately. And we also brought in another name that's familiar to us now in these days, as gentleman of my age, certainly. We brought in a big blonde defender called George Heslop. He actually signed for City. There's a picture there, an image on the screen of a team, a sort of team line. It's not the full team. I mean, certainly Stan Horn's not on that picture. I'm not 100% sure when the image was taken, but that's a great couple of the back. Obviously, Allison's on it and Mercer, and obviously he just sneaks on at the back, George Heslop there on that picture. City saw their first 0-0 scoreboard on the October the 9th at Leeds Road, Huddersfield, who would have a big say in the season. But Joe Mercer actually went out of his way to thank the thousands of City fans who made the trip and were very loud and proud. So even in those days, we always had a good following, and little trips. Obviously, it was harder to get to some of the grounds in the 60s, but obviously trips to Huddersfield were quite easy to get to. So they used to have really big followings. A win versus Preston 3-0 on the 23rd of October gave City a chance to go top in a rearranged midweek game versus Norwich City, the aforementioned programme notes, because the game had never took place. So that Norwich City, there was a lot of that this season. We had some poor weather in the winter, so those notes in the Norwich programme, the game was actually delayed till the 27th of October. So we had a chance to go top, and indeed we did go top, because despite it being another 0-0 draw, it was enough for City to go top after 14 games. Despite the great start on the pitch and the crowd slowly returning, I mean, United fans and players, etc., you always like to have a little bit of a dig, and Malcolm Allison was a big friend of Pat Crerand at the time. And Pat Crerand had a wager with Malcolm Allison that City's crowds would never go above 30,000. I don't think Pat Crerand should know City fans better than that, and he would lose his bet, because obviously City were buzzing, weren't we? We were buzzing at that time. Obviously, we started to draw back the crowds. We had crowds of almost 50,000, and we even had crowds over 50,000. Don't forget, this is the second division, and I'm glad to say me and my dad were part of those crowds in that season. There was actually we'll talk about the FA Cup in a moment, but there was actually 63,000 in attendance for an FA Cup quarter-final against First Division Everton on the 6th of March 1966. So the crowds had come back. So Mr. Crerand lost his tenner bet with Malcolm Allison about the crowds not getting above 30,000. He should have said average, because obviously the average for the season was a little bit under 30,000. So he probably made a bit of an error there, didn't he, Mr. Crerand? But yeah, back to the league. By 1st of January 1966, City had struggled to keep top spot. It was sort of been a bit of nip and tuck, but we had the visit of the league leaders on New Year's Day. Huddersfield City, I put here. Huddersfield Town visited City. Obviously, Bolton Wanderers had made the early surges, but Huddersfield were now top, and obviously were looking as though they were promotion challenges themselves. So on New Year's Day 1966, Huddersfield visited. We were 3 points behind Huddersfield that time, but a big 2-0 win for City with goals from Doyle and Crossan put us back within a point of Huddersfield. That was great. And also at New Year, just away from football, just a little thing. There was a little thing in the programme. A new building was taking shape, not just a few yards from Main Road. It was, of course, the new social club was being built, and that was due to open in April 1966. I mean, we'll return to that in a moment, but that was taking shape, and obviously City fans could see that. So something else to be glad about. Building had continued despite some cold weather, which disrupted the end of 65 and early 66, including both home and away games versus a team called Rotherham. I've got the away programme there, which is dated 27th of December. We were to play Rotherham home and away within 2 days, 27th and 28th of December, but both games were actually cancelled, and obviously the Rotherham game will be somewhat significant later on in this, very soon, but later on in the season as far as Manchester City are concerned. Of course, despite the weather, game still went ahead. We've got a great image there of you on the screen from the Preston game, Preston North End game at Main Road on January the 15th, where conditions didn't help, another 0-0 draw. And just look at that kit, the striped City kit there. I think I would be fairly sure that would be maroon and white stripe. I think that would be. It obviously features who passed away this year. Mr. David Pacuzzi's in it as well on that picture, and Alan Ogley making the save, obviously the City goalkeeper. So yeah, I mean, that was a great image, and obviously, interestingly enough, we changed to stripes, didn't we? But obviously because of the sky blue shirts with the snow. But I did notice the Preston player in the background played in their normal white tops. So how that worked, I do not know. But I know the away team never changed usually. It was usually the home team that changed if there was a sort of late clash or something like that in those days. That was the rules. February 26, 1966 saw a rare visit for City to Carlisle. Is it Brunton Park, Carlisle? My apologies, I've got that totally wrong. I've just done that off the top of my head because I haven't wrote it down. A hard-fought 2-1 win with Summerby and Pardo scoring. And that meant on that, the February 26th, City opened up a 2-point gap on Huddersfield at the top. So we were top, a good 2 points clear. Despite things going well on the pitch, I mean, we have a little bit of previous for this, don't we? We've still adding new players, and obviously you think about adding Mr. Marsh in the 70s, which sort of didn't help, did it? But we did it. March 66, we added a certain young gentleman from Bury called Colin Bell for £42,000, and he actually scored in his debut. So there you go. Hopefully, obviously in those days it wasn't going to affect what was going to happen with City, and he made his debut in a 2-1 win over Derby on the 19th of March at the baseball ground. Neil Young scored the other one in that victory. Due to the FA Cup run and this weather thing, City did find themselves behind Huddersfield at the top at that stage, but that's only because we had games in hand. Obviously we didn't have the points, but we always had a couple of games in hand, so we were virtually on the same points. Not quite as good goal difference, goal average at that. It was at that time, not goal difference, but we didn't have the points in the bag. So by the Easter schedule, where you played teams home and away, we'd actually beat a home win versus Bury over Easter with their Summerby scoring, and then Easter, that was Good Friday. Then the Easter Monday we had a 2-1 loss to Bury with Summerby again scoring in the loss, unfortunately, at Bury. So still a little bit of inconsistencies by City, but we were fairly safe in that first and second spot. As I said, we were second purely based on games played, and by the visit of Bolton on the 16th of April, City sat second just on goal difference, but within 2 games in hand with 7 games to play. Everyone was a little bit optimistic, and it looked as though Huddersfield and City would sort of get promoted. In what order, no one knew, but he was looking a bit of a shoo-in now, but the confidence was building with 7 games left. It was summed up by Peter Gardner, journalist Peter Gardner, writing in the programme notes against Birmingham City, which was the 3-1 win. Bell, Young and Crossan scoring that, who was waxing lyrical about City at the time. And I'm just going to quote from his article. The climax of the magnificent season for Manchester City is just round the corner. Don't forget, this is with 7 games left, and it's looking as though you shouldn't jump to conclusions. It look as though we were there. Today's match against Birmingham sets the running stage for a season that now seems certain to end and return to the top flight after 3 seasons in the second division. With 51 points from 37 games, City need only average 1 point a game to be absolutely certain of becoming champions for the 6th time. The last occasion being 19 years ago in 1947. It's a wonderful achievement for a side that was given little chance of real success when the season started out. Under new management, their best hopes were said to be a place in the top half dozen, with the better prospects of success next year when manager Joe Mercer would have a clearer idea of his strengths and weaknesses. However, the critics have been confounded. City are cruising handsomely into the First Division with a glorious outlook of a tilt at European competitions on the bright horizon. Manager Mercer's job has been carried through quicker than anyone even at Main Road would have thought possible. But the big thing is that City will soon be returning to their rightful place, and after a welcome summer break they will be ready for the surge into the big time next season. The first job is to consolidate the club's position in the higher sphere so that there is no danger of a quick return to the Second Division. Once this mission has been successfully undertaken, there is no end to what City can achieve. So quite pathetic there by Peter Gardner, obviously writing for the City programme. He was obviously for the Manchester Evening News at the time. With 4 games left, yes, we travelled, didn't we, to this place, and there'll be a programmage of we travelled to Rotherham, didn't we, for a rearranged game, and a win at Rotherham would guarantee City promotion back to the First Division. And obviously I'm going to read from the Daily Mirror article, obviously headed Bell nods City back to Division 1. So this is the 4th of May. Manchester City inside right, Colin Bell soared into the air in the 47th minute to head the ball into Rotherham net and send City back into the First Division after 3 years. It was a golden goal that means a big cash bonus for the City players and the chance for big-time soccer at Main Road. The legion of City supporters roared ceaselessly in the last 15 minutes. We're back in Division 1 and Bell was cheered off the field. City are now certain to go up, and with 3 matches still to play, they need only 2 points to be certain of the championship. What a gruelling battle this was. Rotherham met them head on, and the game became a clash of power and persistence, with fouls cluttering the match the whole way. Tempers were frayed after a very quiet start, and just after half-time, referee George Grundy from Grimsby called both captains together and lectured them about the rough stuff. After 17 minutes, Crossan sprinted brilliant past two men, and from his neat pass, Neil Young lashed the ball only inches over the top. City started to put on the pressure, and just after this, Crossan raked two shots only inches high. Fouls were frequent, and City's Crossan and right winger Mike Summer were both spoken to by the referee. 2 minutes after half-time, Colin Bell, City's bye from Bury, grabbed the winner. Rotherham battered City's defence towards the end, and centre-forward John Gelly hit a thunderbolt of a shot that Dowd incredibly managed to block. So yeah, I mean, you get all the plaudits for Colin Bell, of course, for taking us back up, and I think there's a song in there as well somewhere, isn't there, about that as well. But yeah, I mean, there you go. You get Harry Dowd, actually, Ogley and Dowd sort of vied for the goalkeeper's position. Actually, obviously kept City in it. And indeed, yeah, that was it. That was promotion gained, and indeed it was Captain Johnny Crossan at the time who went on to lift the championship trophy, of course. This was confirmed at another rearranged game on the 13th of May at the Valley versus Charlton Athletic, as City went on to clinch the second division title for a record sixth time at the time for the second division title, with a 3-2 win with Oakes, Crossan and Connor scoring the goals. Those images of Johnny Crossan with the trophy are some of the first images I remember putting up on my bedroom wall, black and white. And I think the Hornet comic, I think the paper was called The Hornet or a comic. There was a little pull out, and it was I've not found the image again. I did see the image, but I couldn't actually get a copy for you. But of Johnny Crossan actually holding the cup up, the second division championship cup up, which used to be on my wall as well, with those images that you can see that I've put on the for you to look at. So yeah, they were some of the first images I ever had on my bedroom wall. Yeah, the average league crowds, yes, as I said, they've got some good crowds. I mean, the average was only 27,739. I say only, it's almost double what it was last season, but obviously there was still sort of smaller crowds with the 50,000s. But I say, this was a second division. We weren't playing attractive teams, but that was obviously well above anyone else in the second division at the time. So again, City support was beginning to come back after it had waned just a little bit. And of course, in the FA Cup, I'd mentioned the FA Cup. We had a good run, mentioned earlier. We had some great crowds in that, didn't we? FA Cup in the third round, we drew at Blackpool on the 22nd of January with a Crossan goal, 1-1, and this was followed by a 3-1 win in the replay at Main Road on the 24th of January, with Summerby, Doyle and Crossan getting the goals. The fourth round, comfortable home win, 2-0 versus Grimsby, with an own goal and Summerby scoring. A tougher fifth round draw against Leicester away, but obviously this is testing ourselves against first division teams. It was at Main Road, was the first game, was a 2-2 draw on the 5th of March with a crowd of 56,787. Absolutely a marvellous crowd. Young scored both the goals, and then they took us back to Filbert Street. They thought they'd beat us at Filbert Street, but they didn't. We had a 1-0 win at Filbert Street. And there's a great image as Mike Doyle salutes the only goal past a certain goalkeeper called Gordon Banks. So he was going to have an interesting July and August, wasn't he, in 1966? But of course, that was a goal by Neil Young as well. So it took us to a quarter final. I mean, it was going okay in the league. The games were a bit, obviously because of the weather, getting a bit interrupted. But we drew. Everton were doing okay. They were in the top half of the first division at that time. And obviously, we got a cracking crowd at Main Road for the first round of it for this quarter-final first match. It was a 0-0 draw in front of 63,034 fans at Main Road. At Goodison there was 60,349 for the replay, another 0-0 draw, but sadly we lost a second replay at Molineux, which was obviously the normal thing then to play the second replay at a neutral ground, and we lost the replay at Molineux in front of 27,948 at 2-0. So we were out of the FA Cup, but obviously we'd won the second division title, so that made out of it. In the League Cup, which was still a few years old now, wasn't it? We sadly A loss to Coventry 3-2 took us out of that. Yeah, and off the pitch we got back to it. We'll get back to it, didn't we? We got back to it, off to it. Yeah, poor weather conditions, but we finally opened that old social club more or less on schedule as well in those days. So that was April 1966, and that was the envy of most football clubs. So we had a team, a manager, and now a social club that was the envy of a lot of clubs of so-called bigger clubs. I mean, City were a big club. Don't let anyone say City were a big club then. That just obviously used to pop into the second division every now and then. I mean, away from City, it was 57 shillings to go down to London, or £2.85 in today's money. And Bellevue, well, Bellevue for me was like a day out. I lived in Withington. I lived 15-20 minutes walk from Main Road, but going to Bellevue was like going to Blackpool or Rill. It was a day out for me. So Bellevue was in full swing, and it was fantastic. We used to get a couple of buses. We didn't have a car in those days. My family didn't have a car. So we used to get the old buses down to Bellevue, and as I said, it was like a day out. It was like going to Blackpool for me. It was fantastic when I was a young kid. So that was away from football. Yeah, City were back in the first division, and obviously, as Peter Gardner was saying there, the job now for Mercer-Allison was to ensure we stayed there, wasn't it? Based on this season, we'd played some first division opposition, and we'd done well. So staying in the first division seemed very doable with the team he had. Who knows what this team could achieve, as Mr. Gardner said there. He was quite pathetic, wasn't he? He was sort of implying it could go on to better things, and I think we do, don't we? Just a little bit. Perhaps after a season of is it reconciliation the word or whatever? But as a season of consolidation, that's the word. We had a season of consolidation, obviously, in 1966-67 before things went a little bit better. Anyway, that's 1965-66. I'm sorry, it's 20 odd minutes, nearly out, just under half an hour, but there's a lot to get through, isn't there? I hope you enjoyed that, and you'll join me for the 1966-67 season. Although obviously we don't win anything, it's again, they're always interesting. No matter what City do, whether we win anything or we don't, there's always a lot of history, a lot of things to talk about. So hopefully you can join me again for the 66-67, and thanks for joining me. This is Look Back in Manchester City's history at 1965-66. Please check out my little links on screen. Please follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook, and I try to follow and friend everyone back if you're on there. And if you can look at moviegamenostalgia.com, my little website, that's my little day job for old rare DVDs, movie posters from the 1920s, and some board games on there as well. If you can have a look on that and follow the links, etc., that'll help out my little search engine, Google Analytics and stuff. Even if you don't buy anything, it helps me out in that way, so that's absolutely fantastic. Well, thanks for that. Until we meet again on another Citizen past or present, please, I want you all to stay safe, Blues, and whatever you're going to do the rest of the day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your family, and more importantly, let's all look after each other. And I'll see you all again. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, any of your personal memories of that. If you say there'll be a lot of young guys who obviously don't go that far back, but if you've got anything personal memories of 1965-66, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Bird is saying goodbye for now. Bye-bye.